Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back to Truthseekers. Tonight, we're going on the dark side. Welcome.
Greetings and salutations, friends. Welcome. I can't tell you, boy, I have been looking forward to this tonight's interview for quite some time. I don't want to waste very much time, so what I'm going to tell you is that tonight I'm going to get to interview a real-life exorcist and bring you along for the journey. About our exorcist, that would be our special guest tonight, whose name is Father Michael L. Maginot. Some of you may be familiar with part of his story because Zach Baggins literally bought the house that he performed an exorcism in, and there's a documentary called The Hell House, or I'm sorry, The Demon House. Pardon me. But about Father Maginot, he went to seminary at St. Maynard College in southern Indiana, and he's a very educated man. One of the things that impressed me most about him is just how educated this man is. He gained a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry, and he went to Rome for theology and gained an STL degree in biblical theology, and that was in 1984. Father Mike was actually ordained a priest on July 2nd, 1983. He would later be sent back to Rome to gain a JCL degree in canon law, also at the Pontifical Gregorian University in the year 2000. When he returned, he would be assigned to St. Stephen's Martyr Parish, which is in Maryville, Indiana. And he was assigned there as administrator with duties also at the tribunal in the Diocese of Gary. For 3 years there, he would be in charge of the tribunal as judicial vicar for the diocese. Afterwards, he would become pastor of the parish and would be asked by many priests in trouble to act as their advocate, I suppose, given his degree in canon law. In 2012, he was given permission by the bishop to be an exorcist for a family whose case eventually would receive worldwide notoriety after the mother in that case decided to make this successful case known to the press. You may have seen this on Inside Edition and many other television shows, this story of Father Maginot and the exorcist of this family in Maryville, Indiana. And friends, I don't want to waste another moment, so we're going to see if we can get our guest tonight on the phone. He's only agreed to do an interview by phone, so please bear with me while we get our special guest on the phone. I'm going to get our banner up. Hopefully we could get him on the phone. And that would be Catholic priest and exorcist Michael L. Maginot. Let's reach out to him on the mystery phone here.
Father Mike here.
Hi, Father Mike. It's Stephen with Truthseekers Show.
Oh, okay. Okay, hi, Steve.
Good. I have you on speakerphone, so I apologize if I appear to be a bit muffled, but I need to do that in order to make this work live.
Oh, okay. You want me to put on speaker myself?
No, that would be fine. You're fine the way that you are. But I have you on speaker.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of have you on speaker next to my mic, so we're going to share a mic to try to get through this. I gave a short introduction of your history and your education from your church's website. But I think that the first question I really want to ask is, and a lot of people are curious about this, and I want to say it's been a long time, Father, since I've shown any Catholic priest my homework, but I've been doing a lot of research, and I found out that the bishop of each diocese is actually in charge of demonic matters and exorcism, but they often will appoint a priest, and some priests come to become exorcists in this way. Can you tell us, how did you actually become a Catholic exorcist? What is the process like for those curious about how that happens?
Well, actually, I was kind of just thrown into the water because I got a call from the Methodist hospital, local, because I kind of help out the Catholic priest chaplain on his day off, and which is Friday and Saturday. I just do emergencies. And that particular Friday morning, I got a call that they needed an exorcism done when the boy walked up the wall backwards at the hospital.
Yeah, I heard about that. A lot of supernatural activity. And were you witness to things like this boy walking up walls backwards?
That's pretty, especially being seen by people outside of the family. To be seen by professional people, nurses and doctors and child protective services and the like. That's pretty rare. And so that is one of the common signs of a need for an exorcism is levitation. So that's a form of levitation.
Yeah, and also in my research, I found that there are several criteria that you guys use, right? Like speaking languages that the person would
unknown knowledge.
And isn't there known cases where people were speaking in ancient languages that are no longer spoken while possessed?
Definitely, yeah. Having secret knowledge about a person, also an aversion to holy objects, holy water or crucifixes and such, where they react very violently. It could also be an uncanny power, strength.
Some of these people actually exhibit like what will be determined to be greater than human strength. I've read of one case where an old man that was like 85 years old was lifting this heavy furniture, like a whole couch, over his head. Have you seen things like that, or that kind of level?
Yeah, I had a pregnant lady. She was, about 9 months pregnant. She gave birth actually a week after the second and final exorcism for her, and it took 5 strong guys to hold her down, to hold her in the chair, and one on each leg and arm and head to keep her from harming the baby and keeping her in the chair and things like that. So and she was just a little girl, just a little over 100 pounds or so, and we had all these big burly guys being thrown around by her.
So we have knowing secret knowledge, we have speaking in languages they couldn't know, we have exhibition of super strength and other sort of paranormal effects like levitation and things like that. And I've read that sometimes they will apport objects into the room or something like that.
Yeah, so also, to move objects with, that's another thing. So where objects fly around the room or, kind of fly at people.
Wow, that's interesting. And when you have done many exorcisms, you have sort of had to test each person to see that they qualify with these sort of criteria?
Yes. So when anyone ever kind of gives a call, I do kind of hear their story. So I always kind of want to see when did this all start to begin and try to figure out what could be the cause or the source of the problem. I'm definitely looking for paranormal types of activity and not just feelings that, like they're going to hell or things like that, or hearing voices and things that can be more on a psychological nature. And also you have to also rule out medical problems as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because there's a fair bit of history of schizophrenia or maybe other mental illnesses being mistaken for demonic possession in history. But today, isn't there safeguards in place to rule out mental illness before an exorcism is carried out?
Yeah, we'll usually try to look for something more on the paranormal side. So something that's just outside of the person's head. So it's pretty common. They may hear voices or telling them they're going to hell or that they're possessed and things like that. And so we kind of look for those special categories of things that go beyond just a mental illness.
Okay, and so you're ruling out any kind of medical or mental illness, so that leaves the supernatural sometimes, right?
Yes, yeah. So we're mainly looking for supernatural things that are happening.
Yeah, and how many exorcisms would you say that you've either carried out or been participant in? Because sometimes you're a secondary or something, isn't that correct? Sometimes there will be multiple priests performing an exorcism on one person.
Yeah, I pretty much perform them. I'm the only priest, but I will have a couple people helping. Someone who will also read the prayers, the responses, and who would also know a little bit of Latin. So, I could also go into the ritual that way.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that because I know in my research that there is a new English ritual, but I've heard from multiple sources that most exorcists, Catholic priest exorcists, prefer to use the original Latin rite. Can you talk about the differences in when that English version and why it was created?
Yeah, I guess I kind of like the baseline with the English version, because sometimes the Latin version really creates quite a reaction, and so I just would like to get a feel for how strong the entity is, the demon, and because I also would have a couple of strong guys on either side of the person to keep them in the chair. And so sometimes they react quite a bit just to the English version. And so you don't really have to go to the Latin. But sometimes they just kind of sit through the English version, and then all of a sudden then I kind of go to the Latin, and I get a lot more of a reaction from them.
Well, so it's almost like round one and round two, right? With different strengths of the
yeah.
rite. Yeah. And before I forget, an important question that I wanted to ask you on a personal level before I forget. This is very important to me. It's something that I've been thinking about while thinking about doing this interview. And I just wanted to know: has confronting demons brought you closer to God or made your faith in God stronger?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because you kind of, I am a puzzle person, so you have to kind of look at. What's the rules that God kind of allows for them, and they won't tell you that. So they would like to make you think they're all powerful, but we know that's not the case. And so there's certain things they can't do. They'll boast about doing. They like to lie a lot, so they'll kind of claim certain things. But like one thing they cannot do is kill a person directly. They always have to have someone else kind of do that, or the person do it themselves, like suicide. But they would like to think, they always boast about killing the person or making the person die, and that really can't happen directly.
Well,
and there's other rules like that. There's limits to what they can do.
That's interesting. And I wanted to ask you, because I grew up Catholic and was taught that there are gateways to demonic possession or oppression, even. Things like Ouija boards and necromancy, divination, psychics, things that you should avoid. Do you believe that these things are truly gateways to opening up yourself to demonic forces?
Yeah, they're kind of their inventions to communicate. So they have developed all kinds of things throughout the centuries, and right now they like to use a lot of electronic stuff.
Really?
They're kind of into websites and Facebook and different things, where they just would like to communicate, but any way you could kind of communicate with the spirit. So, there's electronic devices like
ghost boxes,
the ghost boxes and different things like that. So there's a lot of ghost hunting type of things too, and so they like to communicate. Demons do like to communicate. So they and get people curious and interested, and to go deeper and deeper. So those are kind of, as you say, gateways. Yeah, but they actually want you to get in deeper and deeper with them.
And isn't it common for the demons to sort of masquerade maybe as human spirits, or to be tricksters and be pretending to be something that they're really not? Like they may pretend to be an angel, or they may pretend to be a lost relative to some people.
Because they don't want to really they don't want to scare you off, So when they do these things, they have to be kind of careful because they want to make you curious, so that you get intrigued or think you're talking to someone friendly, because so that they don't want to. Usually, the problem comes in when you don't want to communicate with them anymore, and
close the gateway, right? Yeah.
And then they kind of go on the attack, and that's when they kind of go on the attack. That's kind of when we could get more involved.
Wow, and I wanted to ask you if some people are more susceptible to possession and some people are more resistant to it. One of the things I was thinking about is, wouldn't a demon avoid a strong Christian and go for a weaker target, or is that not the case?
They do look for weaknesses, so they look for the path of least resistance. And so, but they also kind of take on challenges. And so when a person perhaps is going through a conversion process, they like to hold the territory that they kind of gained. So that's another time they will go a little bit on the attack when you're someone's trying to grow in their faith or deepen their faith. There could be attacks in that, but that's still in the normal realm of things. It's not usually. It is much more still like at the psychological level, communication level, the temptation level, and things like that. And we kind of consider that normal demonic activity, which is essentially what God allows, even to his only son Jesus. So God allows that to every person. There's no way to prevent temptation.
Yeah.
So that will always be there. But the extraordinary activity, which is you're starting to get into the paranormal and supernatural, those things need a human invite in some way. It could be the person themselves.
Okay.
Or else a curse from someone else who kind of is into ritual, knowing the rituals that can bring those things about. So witchcraft or
magic,
voodoo and different things like that.
So I was going to ask your advice for anybody in the audience who would like to know: is there some way that is a good way or method to guard against being possessed by demons or being affected by demons? Is there something you can do besides prayer and
one thing that's very common is that if you befriend someone who is into those types of rituals, and they would probably try to get you involved in the occult itself. And so, they will try to befriend you, and you gotta kind of be careful because they're at some early stage in the relationship. They will try to gain an object like a gift or give you something that you would tend to hold on to, something you could tend to see of a great value to hold on to.
And this could be somehow enchanted or possessed itself, like a possessed object?
Yeah, so they would pretty much try to attach the demon to the object, and then use that to kind of get them involved. Be a gateway into their rituals. So get them interested in also kind of doing their different kind of ritualized things. So seances and playing with Ouija boards and tarot cards and other things like palm reading and other things. So those you're kind of going more from just communication to actually starting to make pacts with the demon. You can make money from this kind of stuff, and so this is and get people to kind of see what they really desire in life, and if the demon is kind of able to make that promise to make a lot of money here or there, to make a pact that way. But in the end, that kind of thing is like, if they're able to deliver on that first promise, then they demand more and more for you to keep that promise, or they threaten to take it all away. And so it's like, they'll deliver on the first thing, but you end up, trying to, it's pretty much being coaxed more and more to do more and more to maintain that first promise.
Wow, interesting.
This don't take it away.
This is perfect lead into the question I thought one of the most important, and it's a philosophical and theological question that I've struggled with. And I told you that I had 12 years of scripture study and theology, educated by the Jesuits and the Franciscan priests and brothers, and I really valued my education. But I got to tell you, Father, I got in trouble with the priests for asking too many questions. One of the things that I found in some research is the story of the Testament of Solomon. So I want to ask, is it possible that a godly man can communicate with and even use demons for some desired outcome? I'm reminded of those stories of Solomon commanding demons in the construction of Solomon's temple. And it always seems strange to me that we're told as the faithful, as Christian or Catholic, you got to stay away from X, Y, or Z. But yet right in the Bible, there's Solomon commanding demons to do his will. And he didn't suffer ill effects, from what I understand.
Well, he did. Actually,
okay.
He did. But it's, again, it's like, you think, the demon makes it sound like he's working for you at the very beginning, which is you're kind of getting what you desire. There's one thing you really desire, to maybe to have a relationship with this person, or to get this particular kind of glamour job, or different things like that. And so it's able to kind of give you that at the very beginning. But then now that the man turns, and now you're kind of working for them, because now to keep that, whatever they gave you, you need to now do their bidding. And so they start to demand more and more to keep that. And then they go on and if you refuse to do it, then they go on the attack. So that's when it turns sour.
Yeah, interesting. So even for somebody like Solomon, he suffered some ill effects from his participation with demons, or his use of them.
Yeah. So he eventually, in the end, had the kingdom ripped away from him. So he taxed the people too much. The people turned on him. The northern kingdoms, there's 12 tribes. The 10 northern tribes broke away from him, and he was just left with the tribe of Judah. And so he who was, in the beginning, a good king, pretty much turned to be a great disappointment.
Wow. Okay, so I have heard recently that demonic possession and activity is on the rise worldwide, and that there's now more than 125 exorcists in the U.S. today, and that I was told was up from just a few in the United States 10 years ago. Do you have any insight into why demonic activity is increasing so much lately, and possessions are on the rise?
Yeah, it does seem to be kind of a loss in traditional religion, and especially in the Catholic Church. The priest scandal was one thing that really kind of hurt Catholicism quite a bit. that discovery as it came out, 30 to 20 years ago, what was going on for, several years before that.
Yeah, it seems to me that there's a marked drop in the influence of the church from what I remember growing up. They were just hugely influential.
Yeah.
And everybody went to church on Sunday, and it seemed after that a lot of people dropped off.
Yeah. So traditional religion has taken quite a hit with things like that. But there is still people who sense a spiritual need. And so, and what kind of, when they look at perhaps the church, they see the cross and that seems to be something they want to, kind of avoid. They don't quite understand what that is all about, and they kind of like, oh, here's a spiritual power that will give you things and help you, accomplish your desires. And so, I guess when people kind of give testimonies on that this spirit will work for you, I think it kind of attracts people to try that. It's just that the promise is only good at the very, very beginning, and then it turns south very quickly after that.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, the New Testament mentions Jesus casting out demons in several different passages that I'm aware of. And that power, that skill or ability was given to his apostles by the Holy Spirit. Do you consider you yourself like a continuation of that line?
Yeah, so it definitely was handed on, Jesus definitely expelled demons, and he gave that power to the apostles. The apostles then hand that on to the bishops, and the bishops can extend that on also to priest helpers, and oftentimes they do. So they usually are busy doing many other things, and usually extend that power to a priest to handle those situations in their diocese. And in fact, the Pope has kind of demanded that every bishop at least name one exorcist for his diocese to perhaps hand on those cases that he may be in the chancery may get a call for, and so that they are handled.
And I wanted to ask you, is it a requirement to be a priest, or can a bishop appoint, like, let's say, a very good Catholic who's an expert in paranormal happenings?
Yeah, it is in canon law. He must be a priest.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to ask you is that there seems to be some people that really are sensationalizing on and profiting from so-called real exorcisms. I don't mean the Hollywood movie type. These people like, this Reverend Larson, who got sort of a reality television show where he and his two daughters would go and exorcise people. And to me, it seems very hokey and almost disrespectful. Have you seen some of this stuff, and what do you, as a real-life exorcist, think of the sensationalization and profit?
Well, yeah, I would say, a priest is the only one who could do an exorcism, but lay people may have the gift of deliverance. Now, deliverance, is perhaps a gift that they could also help people with different problems like alcoholism or addictions and different things like that, which we kind of see more in the normal level of things, at a psychological level as well, but there's also a spiritual component to that. And so they may be able to help people get over, say, an addiction, And sometimes if it's close, a little higher level of paranormal activity, they might be able to even expel, I would say, minor demons and such. But if it is a pretty powerful one, usually they kind of get shut down. It's a little too much for them to handle, unless they have quite a bit of experience. But it is a long process. It's not an easy thing, especially a very difficult or multiple demons that can come into a person. And so he seems to do it in a couple minutes or something. It's never that easy. It's a battle.
Yeah,
and,
it could take weeks, right? You could have to repeat the ritual.
Yeah,
right?
It's just not. Yeah, just putting a Bible on someone's head and say "be free" and move on to the next. It's never that. So it's quite a grueling battle to try to free someone from whatever level of attachment may have. Now, there's different levels of attachment, and through time that a person may have, that affects them. And
I was going to ask you. You mentioned
the longer that is, the harder it is to get rid of it. The harder it is to break it.
Wow. Yeah, and you mentioned that the demons have different levels of power. Have you experienced some that you considered weaker demons and some that you considered very strong? And can you tell us?
Yeah, there's a hierarchy of demons.
Okay.
So you got all kinds of ranks, so to speak, like from generals to privates. So there's all rankings in it, and so the stronger the demon, the more, say, subservience that are under him. Kind of. The more he's known, the more famous his name is, and different things like that. So that they're much more powerful. And then you have a lot of wannabes, I guess, that are, the rookies or whatever, that are trying to work their way through the ranks. And so those are usually you could see in a possession or maybe multiple demons involved. So the first ones that kind of go out are those lower ranks. And then you finally have to get to the main one. That is going to be probably a pretty tough battle.
Yeah, and I've seen multiple. I've read multiple accounts, and it seems to me that another common thing during an exorcism is that the exorcist attempts to make the demon name himself, and once named, he is then able to remove him. Is it possible to? Is that true? And is it possible to remove the demon without him telling you his name, or do you have to get the name of the demon?
Yeah, they give that up very difficult. But once they do, if they do give it up, or you manage to hit on it, then you kind of have them like in the spotlight. And say if you were like a criminal on the run, if he's on the run, you don't know where he's at or whatever. But all of a sudden, if he's holed up in a place and he's surrounded by all kinds of policemen and everything like that, he's in trouble. And that's like you have the name. He's pretty much, you got him cornered, and you pretty much, once you know who what you're dealing with, he's pretty much finished, because he has nowhere to run. And so,
and I was going to ask, do you have I've got several different books on demonology, but they're really, it doesn't seem to be consistent. In other words, one book will say this demon's named Leviathan and what that demon's all about, and then another book I have will say the same demon Leviathan is about something else and have a different sort of history. But you guys, as the Catholics, you got that Vatican vault. Do you have like a vast resource of information on these entities and what each one is about, their weaknesses, things like that?
Yeah, there is a whole list of demon books and names and their characteristics and their, as you mentioned, strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes, yeah, it is helpful if you, because when you're trying to find out where it came from and and how it's acting, its personality, and they have personalities. So and sometimes because it refuses to give its name, and then if you kind of recognize something it likes to do, and you kind of capture that in the book, and you mention that name, and once it hears its name, it reacts really. I mean, it's never cool and collective. I mean, it's like when you found out its name, it's like it reacts that. Oh, you got me. You don't. Like the spotlight is on it, and it's trapped. Type of thing. So that's kind of one way to find out its name. Is kind of knowing a lot about the characteristics and how it's manifesting.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you also. From my research, demons, they're cast out in the name of Jesus. But is there other entities that you may call on for assistance? For example, like the Archangel Michael?
Yeah, you could call on the angels and saints. Actually, the ritual begins with what's called the litany of saints, and so you're calling on every saint to kind of help and pray for it, and a lot of times actually the demon does react during that, and sometimes you find like all of a sudden it reacts to one particular saint. And that's kind of an indication, why did it react to that? And really that's what the ritual is. It's a whole series of all kinds of things that, it's like trying to push a demon's buttons. You just throw out all kinds of things and such.
I actually have a copy of the English updated one because I don't speak Latin, and I was curious to read the entire ritual. And it seemed to me that the whole ritual is sort of asking for divine intervention to remove the unclean or demonic spirit from a child of God. But one philosophical or theological question that I would ask, and this is I don't even know how to ask this, but if someone, let's say somebody is a good Christian or is just a Christian, it seems kind of strange to me that God would allow the demons to do this. But is this related to free will? Because you're inviting, in many cases, people are inviting these demons into their lives, right?
And that's why God allows it. He does grant free will. And that's the demon's kind of calling card. That's how they know that they have gained access to a person, because the person did allow them in, or they were able to get a person to send that demon to a person whom they develop some sort of relationship with, as I mentioned, with an object of friendship or something on that order. So they kind of give it's like giving the key to your house, to a friend, and then they have the key so they can come into your house anytime you want, so they come into you. So, and kind of the exorcism is pretty much an activity to try to take that, key away or change the lock, type of thing. So you gotta no longer give it that access, and so you have to. So it's first of all, the person doesn't want them around anymore, so that's the first thing. But then it also has to make them so uncomfortable that it's like the guest who doesn't want to leave, type of thing. You gotta pretty much insult it in every way imaginable, that it gets the idea. You're looking for perhaps that one, that as you could push buttons on people to kind of insult them to get them to leave, or you're looking for that one thing that really gets under their skin, and they can't, and once you find it, you kind of use it over and over.
Oh, okay. I
So
was going to ask you that because I was going to ask you that because there's common things that we see in fictional depictions and even in some of the taped real depictions that I've seen, which is sort of like holy water and pressing across to their forehead and things like that. So you're saying that some of the tools that you have are more effective and you just keep repeating the effective ones?
Yeah, because you're always looking what gets under the demon, what makes the demon uncomfortable, the manifest, get anxious, get angry, and all that. So usually you could go through a whole series of things just sitting, nothing's really happening, and then all of a sudden it reacts to something, and then once you find what it reacts to, then you kind of repeat that or repeat similar things. You kind of know what it's like, finding what pushes a button on a person. They get under their skin. And once you find that, you pretty much just go at that where they know, you're not going to let go of that, and they just have to leave.
Yeah, and another thing that I wanted to ask you, and again, if anything I ask you is too personal, we can move on. But I just wanted to ask because we see various depictions of in fiction but I've read accounts where the demon will jump from the person being exorcised to the actual priest. Have you ever experienced anything like that? And are you afraid of something like that? Do you have fear for these things? Is it like a healthy fear at least?
Yeah, you have to know what you're doing. Okay, so the number one rule is you never invite it into you. Okay, so and that's probably one danger. So you always have to kind of tell family members when they see their loved one. I mean, if you're having them pray for them or kind of around for the ritual, you always have to say, because you first of all say, when they see that their loved one seems to be in torment, like we're hurting them and tormenting them and such. What we're really doing is tormenting the demon, So once it's removed, I mean, the person really doesn't remember. But if they're convulsing or contorting or whatever, it does seem like you're severely hurting them. And there may be a little residual effect. The person may feel, tired or, sore, after that. But, their bones aren't being broken or, whatever it's kind of saying that, that we're torturing it. All we're doing is saying pretty much prayers and, and the things that bother the demon. And that's manifesting through the person. But once it's out, the person really sometimes doesn't even remember. They were kind of blanked through the whole thing. Or if they do are aware of things, they feel really good afterwards. So it's not. In the midst of that, a person who loves the person, they say, they feel that they want, stop attacking my wife or child or whatever, come into me, and you cannot do that because they will, with that invite, it will kind of go into the person, and so. Now it's not like the movies where they're jumping out windows or whatever. It goes into the person subtly, like leaves. It looks like it's out of their loved one, but they didn't realize it jumped into them. If they invited it in, it goes in quietly, and then all of a sudden it tries to, now the problem, it's usually you can kind of tell it's now they're now having the problem, and then you could help them later. But but a lot of times they probably don't realize that it kind of has come into them, and until they kind of all of a sudden start feeling now bizarre or weird, or and sometimes they're maybe too proud to admit this or that,
Wow.
But
we had a great question from the live chat that was also on my list. That several people are asking this. Question for Father Michael: have you ever been physically assaulted during an exorcism?
Yeah. We usually, that's how we can kind of tell that a demon has left, because you kind of need two signs. One, first of all, the reaction has stopped. But the demon can also play possum, and so it make you think it got it out. And so you're actually looking for an outside sign that it is on the outside. And so when we kind of call them parting shots, so someone feels it attacked them, so a lot of times a headache, or they get a bruise or a scratch, or a lot of times I like to do the exorcism in the church, and they don't like being in the church. So once they're out in the church, you hear a lot of noises as them trying to get out. And so that's the thing. Sometimes if you have, like we like to record the things so we can kind of tell, in case a name is given or it says something that sounds like a name, we like to listen to it over and over to kind of see what that name is, or look it up, or see what's being said, because a lot of times they'll do kind of babble things, and the name is in there, but it's, it's kind of sounds like baby talk or something, or doubling letters, or but in all that, there's the name is there, and you can kind of find it. Once you get it, you can kind of use it. But it will like turn off the, it will attack the equipment, turn the camera off, or the recorder off, or it also will knock things over.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, do you videotape all of the exorcisms or audio tape them, and have you kept that for research purposes? Because somebody like me would love to use that.
Yeah, I do have a friend. We do all tape them. We also know, we also tape for kind of legal protections in case something bad happens, because we didn't want it to have that recorded. So, because a demon may kind of accuse you of doing something to the person. So we just don't want anything like that happening. So we just, to be on the safe side, it's recorded case someone says we did this or that to the person, and we just wanted to show that if we have to show what happened, we show what happens.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask you, you have taken part in all these exorcisms. Do you have some fear, though, that one of these entities will hold a grudge and come after you in the future? Is that a thing?
They are. It seems like God actually allows anyone involved in the exorcism to get what's called a parting shot. And it's this one-time thing where they lash out at the person, and then but God kind of does that so it's out, and it's a one-time thing, so they can't, it's just as they leave, you could feel a pain, a punch, I feel a scratch or a burning or a bruise or headache is another thing. And so a lot of, and it may be, because we do have a couple restrainers, the person doing the reading, either, and there's maybe some family members praying as well. And so usually among, if there's that noise in the church, it does go after someone. It's not that if it doesn't turn off the equipment or whatever. So there is something on the outside that indicates, okay, that one is gone. And that's pretty much, now we do tell the people, another rule is, if a name was used and it's out, just to know that name could be obsessive in your mind. So you gotta try to forget it as much as possible. You don't want to get mesmerized by it. Because that could be seen as an invite.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to ask you is that I'm aware that there's a Jewish rite of exorcism. They have their own version of it, but I don't know very much about Islam. Does Islam as well have their own version of exorcism? And do you guys ever get together or talk between yourselves? Because you're both, somebody might not be Catholic, they might be Jewish, or somebody might be, a Muslim and become possessed, and they would prefer to have their clergy person handle it. Do you guys communicate, and are you familiar with the Jewish rite or if there's a Muslim rite?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there are rites. I do know there are non-Catholic Christians involved in deliverance, and so I do respect other especially certain like Pentecostal type of Protestants that do a lot of deliverance ministry and such. So and they're more charismatic, more based on the Holy Spirit. So they don't really have the rituals as the Catholic Church does. Following that, but they may say a lot. Similar things that we, in the name of Jesus and different things, the Catholic Church just seems to have had everything that has worked in the past 2,000 years kind of gets included in that ritual. So
you guys, I did notice that you guys are generally the experts from the research that I've seen. Like, I've seen many cases where somebody that was perhaps like a Methodist minister would tell a family, you need a Catholic priest, and this happened in the case that the famous exorcism movie was based on. So
a lot of the more traditional type of churches, they don't really deal with that. It's more the charismatic, evangelical types of churches that just kind of say different things, and in the course of that, I mean, someone could be successful but if you did one and because you use this one particular technique, of saying this particular thing, we're able to get rid of, deliver a demon from a person. Each demon has their own personalities and strengths and weaknesses and such, so it doesn't necessarily work on another one. So that's kind of you're going, if you have the whole tradition of everything that has worked throughout the centuries,
you guys got,
and sometimes you have to become creative too. So sometimes you might have to come up with something something kind of new. And sometimes you just happen to hit on something, and okay, and it worked for this particular demon, especially one that's probably not as well known, or or if you find out how it kind of got in or something, and you kind of mention something along those lines, and all of a sudden it creates a reaction, and then you kind of maybe just kind of pound it with similar types of things. So sometimes there is, as they say, prayer and fasting, and this one can only be gotten out. So you may come to find kind of unique demons.
Oh, wow, yeah. And another question,
the traditional kinds, I guess.
Another question that I had for you is, because I couldn't really find an answer to this in any research, so I'm glad that I could just ask you. If someone is possessed by a demon and there is no intervention or exorcism that takes place, like let's say they get possessed when they're 18 years old. If they never had any intervention from the priest, would they just remain possessed until their death?
Yeah, now kind of with a curse. If say they were cursed by someone, as a young person, there is you do to kind of keep a curse alive. You do need the person who sent that curse to also be alive. So if that person dies, usually because you need a human, living source to kind of do a curse, and so if that person dies, he's no longer doing doing the ritual or whatever
so
it is that's affecting the person that way.
It would stop. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, we talked off air a little bit because there's a new movie out called The Devil Made Me Do It, which is another of the Conjuring films. And I'm very familiar with that case and the actual reality. And boy, did they take a lot of Hollywood, dramatization for that. They really, that one more than any other of the Conjurings was really filled with inaccuracies and just dramatizations. They say based on a true story. The truth is that there was a child that was possessed, and then somebody invited a family member said, "No, get out of him, come into me." And then that person killed somebody and used a defense of I was possessed by demons at the time. But all of the other stuff in the film was largely made up. What do you feel about the Hollywood sort of, hype and fiction surrounding exorcism? And what do you think that they actually get right? And what do you think that they get wrong about demon possession and exorcism? Because most people's education about what exorcisms is comes from this Hollywood stuff.
Comes Hollywood, yeah. Hollywood, it does sensationalize it. It gives a lot more power to the demon than it really actually has in reality. Even though they have unconventional strength and things, as far as like throwing people out the window, or especially throwing priests around like rag dolls, that seems to be like the most common thing they love doing in Hollywood is you just see the priests flying out the window or, being thrown against the wall.
I've seen that one many times, sure.
And now I would, I did, like one of my parting shots, it actually tore. I have a ritual, and in a binder because I had to get it off the internet. At the time, I had the same ritual from 2012. There was a lot of complaints about the new rite, and which replaced the old rite. And so Pope Benedict allowed the old rite to come to be used because they needed to strengthen the new rite. They changed it too much from the old rite, and so there's a lot of complaints that the new rite wasn't as effective. They had to go, wasn't really provoking the demons that much, and so he allowed the old one to be used again. And then they kind of reworked it, which is it's much closer to the old rite, I would say, the new one.
And is there a reason why the demons don't like Latin? Is that because it was the original language of the church or something like that?
I think it's like I think English could be the vernacular. It's kind of a living language, and so it seems to, I don't know, you could kind of make things, kind of, it doesn't, like when you say, have it translated into English, you take the harshness out of the things. It sounds like a very polite way of saying things, instead of the Latin is really crude in your face, when you kind of look at the, way it really is, it's insult. I mean, you're insulting a demon, so you're saying about every bad thing, when you're addressing the demon, you're telling all its horrendous things, and such. And so, it sounds horrible in English, so you kind of, I don't know, it sounds more genteel or diplomatic, so you're, and you're trying to it's like a charm offensive or something. So I think that was the problem, with the new right, and so they just let it hang out. Just it just sounds rude and everything. So you're not, you would start world wars if you said these things to to dictators. So
yeah. And another question I had on that. Another question that I had is: have you encountered any demons that you were just simply unable to exorcise? Have you encountered some entity so strong that your attempts were not working or didn't work?
Yeah, there was one thing I don't think ever was a demonic possession. And, so I never really went to, bring it to the bishop. And the person was always kind of complaining about some sort of government spying thing. They're doing some sort of, mind control type of thing. And I did have someone, certain communist governments and also the American, I think it was the Air Force or something, was, kind of playing all kinds of mind control type of things on people as guinea pigs or something that seemed to mimic, make them think they're going crazy or being possessed or something. And so actually, so trying to do the ritual on that one particular person, it didn't have any effect. We really, we couldn't get rid of it. Wow. And the person was pretty much complaining always that there's there's these mind control people, or whatever. So it wasn't, that this is a government thing and, conspiracy and all that. And we would send them to a psychologist because we'd always thought, there was a psychological issue, and and our psychologist kind of said that this is not just in their head. They really feel there's some sort of mind control type of thing happening. And I guess there was someone who did. He actually thought that this explains all demonic possessions. And I said, no, there's true psychological things that psychologists can, and therapists and such could help. There are true spiritual things that we can help. But there is this middle thing that, and I kind of think, and talking to, this guy and on his research, there is that middle ground thing that may be some sort of government experimentation, that person might be in some sort of targeted with some sort of mind control type of thing.
Could be. We talk about a lot of conspiracies here, Father, and one of the other things we cover. One of the other things we cover a lot of is UFOs, and along with the rise in worldwide demonic activity and demon possession, there seems to be an incredible amount more UFO sightings. And people are asking in the live chat, and it was on my list of questions, do you believe that the UFO phenomenon is related to demonic activity, and are ETs actually demonic? Or extraterrestrial?
Yeah, I think it may actually be demonic because, because when I look at the UFO phenomena, it does seem like, a physical person couldn't be in the movements of, the lights that move. I mean, they're like zigzag. I mean, the G-forces that would be involved in that, no physical being could, withstand that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll be, up against the wall, splattered or whatever. So, but demons, do manipulate electromagnetic stuff pretty well. So they will mess with all your electronics. And they understand the electronic world pretty well. That seems to be their area of focus. They know how to
I wanted to drill down
concentrate energy like poltergeists. Yeah. When they're that talented, they know how to concentrate energy on an object to move it. or to transport it, or to make it disappear and reappear, or different things like that, to teleport it. So, so it does seem to be, and we like to call them aliens, mainly because we're so in the space age and such. But it does seem to be, yeah. I mean, it does seem to actually be demonic.
A lot of people believe that that's the source of this, is it's actually trickster demonic entities that are tricking people into believing that they are extraterrestrials or from another planet, when actually they're interdimensional beings that are demons. That's a pretty big theory in what these things are actually related to.
And actually, that's what demons actually did do, the so-called Nephilim in the Bible. They did kind of, because they can't reproduce, their angel nature, and so they can't reproduce, but they can kind of, go after the reproductive ways of human nature to try to produce their own babies and such. So it seems like the phenomena of reproduction or whatever that some people complain talk about, but I don't know if there's ever been a baby actually born that way. So but they always kind of talk about being in some sort of laboratory and their sex organs and things. And,
yeah, the abduction
some say
phenomenon.
they're planting babies, and they got pregnant, and then all of a sudden the baby's gone, and things like that. But we don't know exactly what happens with all that. But that does seem to fall into the Nephilim.
I am fascinated by those stories. Fascinated by those stories, and also someone's asking in the live chat, and this was actually on my list of questions. And again, this is a philosophical and theology question. If I get a chance to talk to a priest, I like many people have a lot of questions. And one of the questions that I have is, these demons are the fallen angels that rebelled against God. But again, with these inconsistencies or things that sort of bother my brain, maybe I think too much, but I know that God will forgive me of any sin if I am truly remorseful, and I give my confession and I'm remorseful of that sin. God will forgive me that sin. So somebody's asking, is there redemption for the demon angels? And my question, really, to drill down on that, is, if God will forgive me of anything, would he forgive one of the rebel angels who basically regrets their decision to side against God and expresses remorse and wants to come back into the grace of God? And are you aware if that has ever happened or could happen?
Yeah, I do believe it could happen, but I do also believe it has never happened yet. So there is no instance of recorded in the Bible or in anything we could probably go as a story in history of a demon that repented. But there is the thing in the book of Revelations about the 1,000-year reign, and where everyone is locked up in the abyss and hell for 1,000 years, and then they're released. But they're the ones that go and attack Jesus when he comes again at the end of time for the new heavens and the new earth. They're put back into the abyss and condemned for all eternity. But we also know there's two categories that Jesus mentioned. There's the grinding of teeth, which would be those that would go out and attack them, and then there's the wailing. And those seem to be the repentant ones that were in hell, that kind of repented. And so when they saw him locked up for the 1,000 years, they knew this would be their eternal fate, and they wanted to repent. So when the gates were open, they didn't attack Jesus. They came out, and then it would seem to be that that's the the repentant ones who were in hell, and regretted it once they saw what it was all about and like. They could come, and I think it is in the 1,000-year reign is a peaceful reign. So they actually do see the world no longer under their control, that it was from Adam and Eve to that time. So, and so there is that repentance that is possible. So and that hasn't happened yet. So that's what I think that's what, in fact, that's kind of the only thing I could see why God would allow a peaceful reign to occur on the face of the earth where death is still there. There was no chance for repentance of those who have died or those who are locked up to kind of see what God's creation could be when it's done according to his ways, and then the new heavens and the new earth, which will be no more death when Jesus comes again, that, there will be those who, even seeing where they're at in their eternal fate, will still not want to be part of God's kingdom. And then those that have a change of heart, seeing what the kingdom contrary to God's is, and when they are released, they come before the final judgment seat of God, but repentant.
Yeah, and I guess that would lead me to another question that I had, is that I'm seeing a lot of chatter on the internet about the rise in demonic activity worldwide, and many people are predicting or saying that the rise in demonic activity is due to the birth of the Antichrist. Do you believe that the Antichrist is born and walking among us, or do you think it's sometime off? Because many people are maybe in a response to fear with the current health situation and so many things changing and becoming chaotic. But many people are saying that the Antichrist is born, and that is why there's a rise in demonic activity. He's drawing his army to Earth. What do you think of that? And people saying that?
Yeah, I kind of personally, looking at this COVID situation, which now seems to kind of be vanquishing. But when it first came out, it certainly, in the Catholic Church, it's essentially ceased the daily sacrifice, which is the holy sacrifice of the Mass, in which we have kind of virtual masses for a couple of months, when it was at its height. And, so where, priests could, show, stream live the Mass, but you couldn't receive communion. So it was kind of a strange phenomena there, in which the very purpose of the Mass, the holy sacrifices, the reception of Holy Communion, and that got separated out. And so, and that was kind of one of the sign that marks the beginning of the 3.5 years is the daily sacrifice ceasing. And so that kind of makes you kind of wonder, now that we're kind of seeing that perhaps this thing was a biological weapon, made in the lab, that was supposed to kind of come out perhaps a little later, but I think it was to develop a vaccine, and it seems like the communist Chinese had a plan to kind of take over the world this way, and then it ended up leaking out before they were ready to have their vaccine to save the world on it. So
that's definitely one of the theories. We tend to try to avoid talking about the current health crisis here, because YouTube does not like anybody even talking about it. No, it's quite right. It's quite right. It's quite right. One of the other things that I want to make sure that we get to, I don't want to keep you for too much longer, but I did see a great deal of media interest in you getting a movie deal based on the Demon House exorcism. And I wanted to know, did you get a lot of criticism for getting a movie deal? Even though I've read that you're going to give the money to Catholic charities, but how do you and the church deal with that kind of publicity or respond to people that are critical or say you shouldn't take money for this?
Okay. Yeah. Originally it was, with the person who had the Warrens case, a producer, and then he was going to sign me to the same kind of deal. And yet when we were trying to work with something, to go with one of the major studios, it kind of got blocked because LaToya wasn't on board with us, and she went with a different company. And
so there's two movies being made about the same event, then, right?
Yeah. So when she went with this different company, they were going to tell. They pretty much were just going to get her rights and then tell their own story. So, and reason I went with this guy was I wanted to tell the truth. So it would be as true to the story as possible. I didn't think you needed to enhance anything. I thought it was just a great story the way it was, and that there was no need to, Hollywoodize and sensationalize and have me thrown all over the place, and all this, where it kind of goes, super crazy at the end, and that's kind of where all the Conjuring movies and things kind of went, that were disappointing. That they were pretty true at the beginning, how kind of things were somewhat happening, but the final scene, the showdown and all that, yeah, that was way over the top dramatic, and so I just wanted to kind of tell the story the way.
I've read that you
really
wanted it to be as accurate as possible and no added drama or enhance, because it seems to be very often that they will take what actually happened and then they amp it up so much that it kind of gets lost.
And actually, that kind of got in the way because Hollywood does not want to do that. So
yeah, you might be better off just having a documentary. They actually wanted
LaToya's version, but that company went bankrupt, and it kind of held everything up because I think they want to use that story to get out of their bankruptcy, but so it's kind of, and I don't know. I would just wish, they would. I think it'd be a great movie. Just tell the truth. Just how it actually all happened. And, I mean, it's a great story, just as it is. But that seems to be too much control.
They want to give it up.
Would have to give to me, and so they're not too interested in that.
Yeah, and one of the other questions that I had is, what criteria does the bishops who are selecting you guys to be exorcists, what is it that he's looking for, and what do you think has made you successful at this endeavor?
Yeah, actually, because I just kind of fell into it. So, and we didn't have one in our diocese.
Yeah,
so
you're like I've never heard of an accidental exorcist before, but you are. You just got called up, and then you had to go to the bishop for permission.
Yeah, I just happened to be like the police officer on the scene, so it became my case, and because there was no one else to hand it to, and so, and then the case became so famous. I kind of thought it would be interesting. I mean, I always thought this must be an interesting story. I mean, it was really it's something that I think people would be greatly interested in, and it turned out to be that way. I guess as and then, and when it did become famous, I did get a lot of calls from all over the place. And then I started watching a lot of, shows that, I did like the TV shows that would do paranormal things that people
so you had
went
an interest
with.
in
and so that I saw that as very true. what they were describing. So I was always looking at, how to solve that and resolve that. And I am a puzzle person, so I always liked trying to figure out these puzzles, what makes them work, what are the demons allowed to do, what they're not allowed to, and what they lie about, and so I just it's kind of became a trial and error, different things, and just saying, I probably would have done it this way or that way. Get a lot of calls from people, and and try to understand how it started, and suggest different things that they may try to do. Because I did see one thing is a lot of I was kind of expecting a lot of people that were dabbling in this would it's kind of simple just to renounce everything and things will go back to normal. But a lot of them said that were calling me didn't dabble in this kind of stuff, or if they did, it was as a teenager, so they got scared and never did it again, and really nothing ever happened, and then all of a sudden they're getting all this phenomena and they don't know what they did to cause it. And a lot of times you do find, there's someone that, is into the occult, that is, became a part of their life and kind of turned on them, and they ended up, being a friend for a little while, and things came to be exchanged and such. And, if they have the object, it's kind of hard to, get that object back. And so you almost have to do, an exorcism to break it. But if you have the object, or a lot of other thing is, there's a lot of, people do antiquing and things like that. And they just bring in some sort of table or something, not knowing why it's, it seems to, they get attracted to it. And a lot of times it seems to perhaps have been a table that was used in some sort of ritual and gets handed on, from many
we
people.
have the famous case of the Dybbuk box, which was a possessed. That's probably the most famous possessed. And interesting that Zach Baggins is involved with that now too, as well as your demon house.
Yeah, so he has like all kinds of stuff that's like that. So his whole museum is just filled with different dolls and things that people use, and did rituals on and attach a demon to somehow, and people try to get rid of, try to get rid of them. But they probably want to kind of stay out of my hands, because I found that the best way to really get rid of these things is kind of what Jesus kind of did with the pigs, So we pretty much try to get them in the bottom of a river or bottom of a lake or something, turn them into a rock somehow, put them in cement, and it seems like they cannot bother anyone anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say that you can bind a demon to an object. Do you believe that a demon can be bound to an object, like a box?
Yeah, it seems like that's what all those things are. Yeah, so you did a ritual. Now, a lot of times the demon always felt no one would ever throw it away. I mean, they would always be attracted to it, or they would throw it away, but someone would always find it, So, so whenever, certain, it gets thrown in the garbage, there's someone who gets attracted to it and pulls it out of the garbage and then has it for a while, then they get rid of it, So, and other people just try to destroy things, by burning them. And they're actually, sometimes they're hard to burn, but burning Ouija boards or so. And I was kind of doing that before, and I kind of saw all it releases the demon. So the demon has nothing tied to. So actually, if people want me to get rid of their, Ouija boards or tarot cards or whatever, I pretty much, I have a friend who kind of puts them in cement and puts them down in the bottom of a river, and they never bother anyone anymore. So
yeah, that's interesting. And one of the other one of the other things I wanted to ask you quickly was about ceremonial magic, which in many cases, or black magic, which in many cases, I have a lot of these books which describe the conjuring of demons, and in almost all the cases, the ritual begins with casting of a protective circle around the magician or conjurer before he will conjure a demon. And the ritual magicians and black magicians, I suppose, seem to believe that they are somehow immune from influence or attack from the demon because they're casting this circle. What do you think of that? Is that really inaccurate? Because we see examples of people dabbling in black magic or conjuring spirits or demons that then become oppressed or even possessed by a demon.
Yeah, it might work if you're trying to put that demon onto an object and then kind of give that object to the person, that you wanted to do, curse them with, and they don't realize that that's what's happened. And so as long as that person has the object, the demon is able to torment that person. And but what can also happen is if because sometimes it also happens that they may use that same ritual to go, it's something from the person, and then they go and use that object to curse the person, but they're thinking they're sending the demon there. Now, when they have the object, what you can do, what happens in an exorcism, it's closed with a binding prayer, which sends the demon back where it came from. And so if that was done, then it goes back to the conjurer. Then they have to deal with that demon, but they cannot send it back to the person that they originally intended. They have to get rid of it by, getting rid of it some other way. So,
and again, another question I had in a theological nature is, I think I, like many people, believe that hell is a sort of a prison, and the demons are imprisoned in hell, and they can't just, come to earth. But it seems to me, if we're to believe in demon possession of humans, that there may be doorways or openings somehow in hell that these demons can find their way to earth.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm, you could make portals by doing rituals to let demons come out, so it is, so whenever they do these, witchcraft, pentagrams on the ground and, different things, they create an opening for demons to come in and out. And that really is a tough thing to kind of close. So it does kind of make a place pretty much a portal to hell. And but it can, there are, I kind of have, I really haven't been able to test it out on great cases. Even the Gary case, I could never quite close that because like Zach Bagans, when we're going to try to close it, he reburied the objects, and then when I was going to tell him I'm not going to be involved in this if you're going to want to keep this as a portal to hell, and so he then dug up the objects, but we could never find the little fingernail, and even though we looked for it, we never really found it. So it's actually able to kind of leave that open. And but I was going to try to do something else that I found also kind of works. Is if I was going to bless. I do bless the house to reclaim it back to Christ, and then I found that if you put 4 blessed Benedictine medals in the four corners of a basement.
Interesting.
It blocks it. It stops it, and but you need to have it in a house that you own, and so all the, and so it seems that does block anything from coming in and out anymore. So
now I want to go
worked.
get some and put them in my basement, because this stuff is scary to me. We're just about out of time, but I wanted to ask you one final question, because they are in the news, and also I'm a little confused by some things. The Warrens, according to their own accounts, they have participated in exorcisms and employed the help of Catholic priests. So what do you think of the Warrens, and do you guys use, say, lay experts on demons or paranormal activity in your activities as exorcists?
Yeah, so the Warrens were pioneers, and unfortunately, they lived at a time, they were paving the way for this kind of study, kind of coming back into, religious consciousness. So there was the famous exorcist case, which happened in 49. But they were more in the 60s and 70s and 80s and such, and and they were trying to always get a Catholic priest to try to help here or there, and they always found it difficult to get that permission from a bishop to do things, and sometimes would kind of take things on his own, like in the I think that's what he did in the first Conjuring Rhode Island case, and just did the ritual on his own, which left him kind of attacked for doing that. So I think he did kind of learn a lesson not to do that, but he felt that he needed to help, and certainly Lorraine always kind of mentioned, she was a sensitive, and each time she got involved in a case, she'd get beat up a bit psychologically and everything, spiritually and such. So it did take, each case kind of took a toll on her in that way. Perhaps the parting shots that I kind of mentioned, when you get involved in a lot of cases, perhaps you get a lot of parting shots, but we do, we kind of do depend on sensitives and such to help, because to see, the more knowledge you have, the more you can.
I'd use, if I had to fight a demon, I think I'd use every weapon available to me. Is that how you feel about it?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, so you want to be, everything on your territory. So, like, they would do it in the house itself and such. Well, it seems like that's a pretty good Hollywood thing to do it in a basement with all kinds of, tools that, kind of get thrown all over the place. Yeah. Well, we do it in a church, so that, it has very little access to kind of try to stop it. Everything's blessed and consecrated and such. So it really, it's, so when once it is out, it kind of just has to leave. It's in enemy territory. It just, it can't stand being there. So it gets out as fast as it can, and it might, it does give you some sign that it has left.
Interesting. And so I kept you a few minutes past what we agreed to, and I apologize for that. I could talk to you for another 5 hours, but I don't want to keep you. I know you're a very busy man, but I do want to thank you for helping an old altar boy out. Like I said, I was raised Catholic.
Okay, sure, Stephen.
I almost became a priest myself, partially because of my interest in this exact subject. I've always been fascinated by. And I wanted to ask you, it's been a long time since I've asked a priest this, but could you leave us with a short prayer and a blessing?
Okay, here I'll do the traditional blessing. May the blessing of Almighty God descend upon you, and may Almighty God bless you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Father. I want to thank you. I hope that you will come back because our audience really enjoyed this. And how often does somebody like me that's not in the mainstream media get to really, really deeply interview someone like you? I can't thank you enough for doing it.
Okay. You're
All
welcome.
right. Thank
anytime.
you, Father. God bless you. Goodbye.
Okay. God bless you too. Thank you. Bye.
Well, friends, there's one off my bucket list. I can't believe I've finally gotten to interview an actual real life exorcist. It has been an amazing evening, if you ask me. You guys know I was raised Catholic, and I was always really fascinated by the dark side of things, right? And I would look through the Bible and ask the priests lots of questions about demons and the devil and the fallen angels. It's always been an interest of mine. Call it a morbid curiosity, I suppose. But I always thought that if you're going to believe in, if you're going to believe in God, you cannot believe in God without also believing in the devil. And I believe that evil is very real and very, very interactive with our species somehow. I've always been fascinated with these biblical stories of demons and fallen angels and possessed people, and fascinated with reading accounts of actual real life, real world possession. And I want to make sure. Ellen Fox says, "Thanks, Stephen. Interesting take on things." And I want to apologize. I'm going to check in with the YouTube analytics to check on any super chats. You guys will have to excuse me. Maybe it's it's probably because I grew up Catholic and it was drilled into my head to be very respectful of priests. And I wanted to be respectful of our guest tonight and didn't want to interrupt him every time there was a super chat. But I think we only got. Let me check. I think we only got the one from Ellen, but I want to thank her, Ellen, for your generosity and your support. Oh, wait a minute. No, we got a few. Okay, 1 second. Let me make sure here. And so I want to apologize to everybody for not reading these while they came in. But I hope you understand that I wanted to keep the interview rolling and be respectful of our guest tonight. So I want to thank All Around Arbiter for his kindness, his generosity, and support for $1 super chat. Brother, can you spare $1? And All Around Arbiter did. So I want to thank him for his generosity and his support, continued support of the show, really. Thank you, All Around Arbiter, for blessing me and my show, and God bless you and yours. Alan Fox with a kind and generous donation of $4.99 US. When we asked the question, has he ever been physically assaulted during an exorcism? I talked a little bit with him offline, and I actually knew that he had, but yeah, we definitely want to honor our super chatters and ask the questions. And AJ also asked that question, but thanks to Ellen Fox for her kindness, generosity, support, and continued support of the show. Longtime show supporter. Good to see you, Ellen Fox. You are most welcome. Thank you for blessing me and my show with a couple of bucks to keep us rolling here. It is much appreciated, and God bless you and yours, Ellen Fox. So there is a money button down there if anybody else would like to chime in and throw money at me, because this is a viewer-supported show, which means that every dollar that we get helps us to produce more incredible sort of fringe content like this. Where else are you going to see these long-form interviews? I can't tell you. There's not many. I searched on YouTube, and there is another priest which we're trying to get who has conducted many long-form interviews on Christian YouTube channels. So far, I've been told that he's too busy to grant us an interview, but I'm going to keep trying. But there's not many long-form interviews with an actual real-life exorcist on YouTube. Surprisingly, there's not many. So I'm thankful that we get to add to those long form. There's not many long form interviews with a Catholic priest. So if you'd like to see more content like this, make sure that you throw money at me, because that's what makes the world go round and what makes the show go round. And I just want to say, praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash. And thank you to our Patreon supporters. By the way, Patreon, you can support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And I uploaded a really great song that Reemsey, I want to thank Reemsey, who was in our live chat earlier, but I think has bounced out. But there's a new song of mine called "I Wanted More," and it's all orchestral and symphonic type instruments, you know, cellos and violins and violas and things like that, and it needed something. And thanks very much to Reemsy, it got an incredible piano track. So we uploaded that to Patreon. You also get behind the scenes look at Truthseekers and a bunch of stuff that's going on. So you can support us on Patreon. You can hit that money button in the live chat, or you can send a PayPal donation from the About section of our website, or the down in the description box. There are links to throw money at us. And we appreciate all the money that people support us with, because that helps us produce more content. Renee Miss Jonaside says, praise the almighty AI algorithm of YouTube. I say my daily prayer. We had a prayer from Father Mike, so I'm going to say my daily prayer. AI algorithm gods, please find favor in our show. Raise us in the search engines. Do not delete us or stamp us out, because Father Mike was talking about some health issues of late, and things related to the health crisis. Please do not stamp us out. Please understand that was his opinion and not necessarily reflected by those of Truthseekers, Spectral International LLC, or its show host, me, Stephen Cambion. Please find some context, understand, and help us rise in the search engines, and help more people find our show, and help more people throw money at me, because praise the cash, AI algorithm gods. You and me are partners in this thing. And the more money I make, the more money the AI algorithm god makers in the form of YouTube make. Praise the cash, praise the AI algorithms. In Google's name we pray. Amen. All right, I've said my daily prayer, folks. That's all I can do. So listen, now that I got this out of the way, VCMD propulsion. Can you talk a little bit about Mark and what I told you and the odd things around it? Yes, we can do that on another show. Like I said, I think that it would be best to stick with tonight's subject, but you're welcome to come on here. And VCMD has some amazing propulsion research into what just may be the next generation spaceship propulsion system. It's a space propulsion system, and he told me a little bit about it and about how it works. He was working with famous Mark McCandlish, the person most famous for the ARV, or Alien Reproduction Vehicle. He was working on that with Mark, and it sounds fascinating to me, and we're going to try to have him come on. Also, I wanted to mention that there is a story that we covered previously about an alien that was shot and killed on McGuire Air Force Base. We've got the principal witness to that event, and he will be coming on our show next Monday night. We're going to try to have Monday night as the big interview shows, and then we're going to roll on from there on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Tuesday and Wednesday. Also, I just wanted to mention that because of some changes, I suppose, that I need to make, my wife's going back to work full time in the office, and so I will be on daddy duty much more often. And because of that, and honestly, because the level of income here is, like a part-time job, so I can't really do, or may not be able to do 5 shows a week. Some weeks I may, but we're going to go back to our commitment of doing 3 shows a week, at least 3 shows a week. I may do more, time and energy allowing, but I have some other demands on my time and things going on, and I hope that you will understand that. But we'll always be doing the show Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And like I said, if I have the time and we have something good to talk about, that's another important thing. I don't want to do filler shows. No offense to anybody else that runs a show, but I see many people will click go live and talk about literally anything for an hour just to fill time because they don't really have a show or something better. I really would prefer to bring my A game and do great shows 3 days a week rather than do 3 great and 2 just okay or whatever. Sometimes there's not that much to talk about. A lot of the people that we used to cover here are gone from YouTube or gone. They're in, the internet limbo right now. And I don't really, I started looking on Parler and, on BitChute and these kind of things. Oh, and I want to mention, thank you very much, Cassette to Pie, for a kind and generous $5 super chat donations. Thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and support. And I wanted to mention and thank you, Cassette to Pie. Hope I'm saying that right. If not, please tell me how to say it in the live chat. Cassette to Pie is our latest Patreon supporter. So every time somebody becomes a Patreon supporter, we thank them. I want to take a moment to thank you both for your super chat, kind and generous super chat donation, Cassette to Pie, and for becoming a Patreon supporter, where you're going to get the Patreon benefits. But I do want to mention that if anybody is really having a hard time now and you really like our show here and would like to get the Patreon stuff, just send me an email at truthseekershow@gmail.com. That's all you have to do. And just, write Patreon benefits in the subject line and just say, I'd like the benefits, having a tough time, or something like that. I don't need to hear, I don't need to hear a lot of details. Just let me know Patreon benefits. Email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. I don't want anybody left out for lack of having $1, because it's $1 a month or more. Some people are pledging $10 a month. Every dollar that we get in Patreon and in these super chats and the PayPal helps move the show forward. So thank you, Cassette to Pie, for your kindness, your generosity, and your support. Thank you for blessing our show with some of your kindness. And I am so grateful for your kindness, your generosity, and your support. Thank you for blessing our show, and God bless you and yours, Cassette to Pie. Andrew with a good question. Andrew Whitley asks, do you think the character Kaiser Soze from The Usual Suspects would be considered a demon? I don't think so. Clever guy, but not a demon. Entirely human, right? Really clever guy. I love that movie because the ending is, nobody ruined it for me, and I got to see it. It's just like seeing the movie Sixth Sense. If nobody ruined it for you before you've seen it, I had no idea when I was watching this movie, Usual Suspects, what the ending was, and I was blown away. Like, what a great surprise ending. It's one of my favorite kind of surprise ending movies, that along with Sixth Sense, which was just mind-blowing when I first saw it, right? And I also like The Village, but it seemed like he had such a hit with a surprise ending movie that he tried to hurry up and make another one, and that was good, but not quite as good as The Sixth Sense. Renee Miss Jonocide says, good show. Jonocide says, later, everyone, much love. Yeah, I want to wish you a happy birthday, Jonocide. It is just where I am. It is an hour and 12 minutes away from Jonocide's birthday. So everyone in the live chat, longtime show supporter Jonocide, shout out to Jonocide. Everybody wish him a happy birthday. It's almost his birthday. William Pixley, I still want to know where demons come from. I'm sorry if I did not get to your question or anybody's question. I had a lot to try to jam in, but I'm hoping that I built a rapport with this Father Mike. He seems very, very down to earth and cool and interesting guy. We talked a little bit off air, and he has an interest in paranormal stuff. So I'm hopeful that we can get him back for round 2 and do another interview with him. I do have another person that is an assistant. Believe it or not, I did not know this. Many exorcists have lay people that are assistants to them. And this girl takes all of the calls for a certain priest who's an exorcist and, helps him with his exorcism duties. And we're going to interview her because she hears a lot of the stories and is very, very knowledgeable about these kind of things. UFO Gandalf, the time traveler, I believe in Australia, right? Or maybe Tasmania. I always forget UFO Gandalf. I'm sorry. I think it's Australia. Or thereabouts, right? Or those little islands, Tasmania or one of the other ones, right around Australia. UFO Gandalf says it's his birthday here already. Mark Robertson says, awesome show. Thanks for the kindness and the generosity and support. Set to Pie says, just seeking the truth. Thanks, Stephen. And we try to bring it to you. I also want to take a moment. I have to keep reminding myself to do this. There is a lot of people that are listening in audio podcast land. In fact, the downloads, I can't believe the number of downloads that we're getting already because we just started. making Truthseekers, our show here, available on all different podcast networks. You can get it on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio. So there's a lot of people that are listening in audio podcast land. I just want to remind you people listening in an audio podcast format. I know some people prefer that, but you're missing half the fun. The real root of our show is our YouTube channel. So please be sure to go to YouTube and type in the search bar Truthseekers, one word. Look for that strange guy with the sunglasses. That would be me, Stephen Cambion, the host of our show. Click that subscribe button. Click that notification bell. And come here with us and be a part of the live chat. We saw this tonight, friends. Tonight, many people from the live chat got to ask a Catholic priest and real-life exorcist some questions. Where else do you get to do that? I think that this is a great community, and you may enjoy participating in our live chat. So I want to make sure that the people listening in audio podcast land understand that the invitation is always there. Please do visit us on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search in the search bar Truthseekers. You'll see me, the guy with the sunglasses. Join us here. Subscribe. Click the notification bell. And finally, we mentioned that you guys, anybody that wants to help our show can help us by throwing money at us. But there is another way that is just as effective. And that would be to make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to our show here, to the videos on YouTube. Share them on your social media. Send them to some friends. Post them on Facebook. Post them on Twitter. And please do follow me. Following me on Twitter is the best way to know more about the show. It's at Stephen Cambion. We also have we just started a Discord server, and the link to that I will put once again on my Twitter feed. It's at Stephen Cambion, StevenCambian, at Stephen Cambion on Twitter. Get all the latest show news, and you'll be notified when a show is about to take place live. All of our shows here are done live, and we would like you to come here and be a part of the live chat. But a good way to help us, besides throwing money at us, of course, is to just like, comment, subscribe. If you comment on these videos that we make here, please chime in. Tell us what you think of the show. Give us some future questions if we happen to get Father Mike or another Catholic exorcist. Put them in the comments below. And I try to interact with the comments section here as much as possible. So that's another form of activity, interactivity that we have here, which I love. We love hearing from our audience too. So you can email me if you'd like to be a guest. If you have some great story that you'd like to share, we're all ears. I'm looking for new guests now. You can email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. Yeah. So, friends, I would like to encourage you to please do like, comment, and share. It really does help. I know I sound like a broken record, and I got to keep saying that. I keep saying I'm going to make a bumper for that, so I don't have to keep, harping on that. But it really does help. That's why every YouTuber asks, because it helps. It helps so much, right? It helps because it raises us in the search engine. It helps more people find us, more people subscribe to us, more people get to know our show here. And certainly that is a very good thing, right? The more people that we can get to hear about our show, the bigger the show will grow. And we're certainly trying at least to grow the show. Tonight, friends, I got to do something that it's been on my bucket list forever. I've always wanted to really sit down and talk to a Catholic exorcist. I didn't get through half of my questions, so I'm hoping that we can have him again, right? I'm hoping, seems like a cool guy. I think he'll agree to it again. I think hopefully he had a good time. I try to make my interview somewhat cathartic for people so that they enjoy the experience. I think that we could get him back. I got through about half of my questions. I'd like to ask him the other half someday. But my point is, I'm always amazed that this show gives me a portal, a passport into talking to some incredible people. And I get to take all of you guys along with me for the journey. And I can't tell you how happy I am. Every time I come here, there's a great audience. Tonight, we had a great audience. Thank you for being a part of this. This has been a Truthseeker special event interview with an exorcist. And hopefully this is the first in a series. We're going to try to reach out to more and different exorcists and interview them as well, because I'd like to get some consensus between them and see if there's a difference of opinion between some of them, and just to grow our knowledge base here about the Catholic rite of exorcism and demons and demon possession. I thought I would love to interview more of these guys who do this, because imagine what an amazing story. This guy spends part of his week literally battling demons for the Catholic Church. Definitely interesting to me. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. It has definitely been my pleasure tonight. Some shows, I got to be honest with you, some shows seem like a grind, right? But I always love the shows where I have a good guest, because it seems like the show just flows and it's not like belabored. Tonight felt very natural to me. I was glad to have such a great audience, and I want to thank you again for being a part of mine. Friends, this week is going to be kind of strange. I've got some strange things to cover. You want to tune in tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where we're going to be covering something you don't want to miss. A Truthseekers exclusive, I believe. So until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.